Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Hi everyone. What's up? How's it going?
What's going on? We got a lot of West Coast games tonight, by the way. A lot of
Yeah.
Wizards and Caps late night.
Oh, the Wizards are playing tonight? I'm totally tuned out of that one. And I'm not even joking. Who are they playing? I don't even know. They played the Kings.
They are playing the Lakers at 10:30.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Not interested this year, guys.
Your take
I'll
on the
check
Wizards.
out the Caps tonight, but I'm not checking out the Wizards. That's not happening.
Your take on the Wizards is that's a basketball franchise, and it starts and ends there.
No offense, just don't care this year. You guys are celebrating being the worst team in the league. And with you better get that Cooper Flag guy, because if you don't, I have heard that this draft, and again, I'm still football brain. I'm full football brain this time around. Typically by this point I can turn it off, but full football brain. I've heard there were like 2 or 3 like franchise changing players this year. So they don't have to get number 1, but is what it is.
Kind of
do
when you're this bad.
I mean, I don't even want to see the Lakers from what I've heard about them these days. So that's like, it's double whammy.
Well, I mean, who didn't see JJ Redick not working out? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Like, what a
shocker. Yeah. He invented basketball on ESPN sitting next to Woj. Okay, guys. Yeah.
We know LeBron works with coaches great all the time.
Yeah, he knew that was going to work out. When they were doing that podcast together and they wrote up 2 plays that everybody was like, oh my God, basketball geniuses. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, let's get back to football brain. And maybe let's just put Detroit to bed with what was my favorite story of the weekend. And I got to admit, this one you're going to have to help me with, because I am at an age now where I'm not sure I totally understand these things and don't care to. Kind of like the Wizards plan. I'm at an age where I don't totally get it. Okay. But anyway, so I saw LiAngelo Ball practice the tweaker song he was going to sing at halftime. The game. That was actually, I wasn't sure what that was, or again, I don't have TikTok, so the band doesn't bother me. Whether it's there or not, doesn't matter. Not in my world. Don't care. There's nothing to do with it. Sure. So one of the Ball brothers apparently is famous for this viral song that's come out.
Yes.
I guess the Lions decided to have him do it at halftime. I actually saw him practice it before the rehearse it before the game, and then he did it, and now he started to get blamed for the Lions' loss. They're placing blame on his presence, like they're looking for anything,
Yes.
And line, there was a Barstool line about it where they wrote about it, and I guess this other very famous rapper was like, I'm blaming him purposefully, I think partially because he's probably jealous that the song is taking off, and the other part is like, maybe he has a point that this guy has now cursed them. And there was a line in this piece that was like, maybe this guy Cameron has a point, because Detroit does have a lot of great musicians, and they could have chosen from some of them, including, I didn't see Eminem there, but I heard he was there, but I didn't see him there. Bob Seger's from there. Famously, Kid Rock's from there. They didn't have him do it. He was probably busy at the inauguration. And then they go, and they could have gone the route of Insane Clown Posse. And sitting there going, let me see if I got this right. You're suggesting LiAngelo Ball may have cursed the Lions, or they may have gotten a little too big for their britches, or they're trying to be a little too cool for school. And that's maybe part of the reason why they lost. But they should have had Insane Clown Posse play halftime of the NFC divisional game on Fox, is what you wanted. That's what you wanted to happen.
I mean, I will say this. If you had told me a song was called Tweaker, I would have guessed Insane Clown Posse sang that song, not LiAngelo Ball. And
that's true.
I will defend this a little bit. I get much more Dan Campbell vibes from Insane Clown Posse than I do LiAngelo Ball. So I'm just saying,
100%.
Like, if Insane Clown Posse came out with a song called Bite Your Kneecaps Off, I think the whole crowd would have been into it. So
I think if Kid Rock showed up and shot a bunch of Bud Light cans, that would have been a cool halftime show.
I mean, what I will say is this: one, fan of Tweaker, good song. I like it. It's catchy. I will say
I had never heard of it until then. when you're in a stadium and you can't hear it. Like this is how old I am now. You know me. I'm pretty current. I had no clue what this was. And then someone had to tell me that's one of the Ball kids. I'm like, oh, well, look at that. Okay.
Yeah. No, this actually, I was prepped by this. One, I had heard the song. And then last week, there was a little bit of Caps news because Brandon Duhaime switched his goal song to it, and he hadn't scored in a long time. And then he scored a goal. He scored 2 goals at home. So they had to play it when he scored. And that was a little bit on like Caps Twitter was like, we need this guy to score now. And he did. So there was a little.
So LiAngelo Ball's song is not bad luck, is your point.
At least for Washington, this is what I was going to get to. It's ours now because Duhaime switched it, scored 2 goals. And in fact, one of the goals, it got changed to him. So they showed him on the Jumbotron, then played it. And then he scored, I want to say he scored an empty netter for the second one. But now I also heard that the Commanders, that they were playing it in post game after the Bucks game as well, which doesn't surprise me.
That's true. They were. Yes.
So Detroit kind of played into it, I think, a little bit. And I don't know. I don't know where the lines are being drawn here. I'm just telling you what I know. It seems like it's a Washington thing now. So Philly.
The stars are aligning in a certain way, in very mystical ways too, and now in very current ways. Like these things happen to the special teams. All the little nuggets of the story come in there. Like when we do the documentary of this season, LiAngelo Ball will now have to be interviewed for it.
I mean, like, I'm just saying, if they
the Caps,
if they do win the Super Bowl, like, is Tweaker going to be blasted, down the streets of DC? I don't know. Right.
But the left-hand up guys are pissed. They're like, come on.
Well, they're going to get their play too. Don't worry. Like, you had to be there for that too. That was, that feels like eons ago at this point. So I'm just saying Tweaker could be a part of it.
Well, I got another one. Andy's going to love that I did this. Okay. Andy, this is an Andy Pollard special. This is the mystical stuff, old man stuff. But I didn't know about the Caps connection. Now that you mentioned it, I do remember they were playing that in the locker room after the Tampa win. I remember that. Okay. So Jayden Daniels can rewrite history here. No rookie quarterback has ever started the Super Bowl, let alone won it. So he's got a chance here. If they win this weekend, he'll start in the Super Bowl. A number of rookies got to their championship games before. I think the number's like 6 of them, but none of them have actually advanced past it. All right. So there's chance here.
There's a layer on the stats there too. The 5 that did it was like Roethlisberger and Flacco and a couple of others.
Sean King.
Mm-hmm. If you look up their scoring defense, they're all like top 3.
Right.
And Jayden's is like 18 or 19, like by far the worst scenario where it's not a defense carrying a team, essentially. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's just another piece of evidence of this is the greatest rookie quarterback season we've ever seen. It might be the greatest season by any rookie, but like certainly of any rookie quarterback. And if they pull this off, there's just like, he is going to reset what it means to come into the league and be a rookie. And then there's this part of it. So you could argue, because there is a rookie quarterback that did win a championship before, it's Sammy Baugh. Sammy Baugh came to the Redskins in 1937. It's the year that they moved from Boston to Washington. He was a highly touted collegiate player, obviously, multi-sport player. He ended up turning out to be, if you go through his history, maybe with Jim Brown, like the greatest player in NFL history. Nobody would be allowed to do the things that he does now. But back then, 5 times he led the league in punting. Multiple times he led the league in interceptions, and he led the league in passing multiple years. And also as a rookie, he did so. The numbers aren't going to wow you because they didn't throw the ball very much back then. In 11 games, the teams with like the most passing yards was like 1,300 for the entire season. So about 100 and something a game is what they threw for. And obviously it was a shorter season. But as a rookie, Sammy Baugh was drafted, came in, and won the NFL championship, beating George Halas's Bears. In the championship game, he threw for 355 yards, which is an absolutely absurd number that would back then in any game, because most teams threw the ball 5 to 10 times a game. Like that was it, right? That 355 number actually lasted until 2012 before any rookie threw for more yards in any playoff game ever, right? So that was Russell Wilson, 2012, when that happened. So here's where I think the weird stuff starts happening, okay? So Sammy Baugh, you could argue, actually had, for a quarterback, the best rookie season ever. He won a championship. This year, Jayden Daniels can kind of rewrite the modern NFL, and he could go and start a Super Bowl, potentially win a Super Bowl. And that, of course, would end all debates about who's had the best rookie quarterback season ever in the modern NFL. When did they last go to the Super Bowl? 1991 or the calendar year 1992. It's been 33 seasons since that happened, right? What number does Sammy Baugh wear?
That'd be number 33.
33. Andy, got you beat. That is the most stars-aligned thing I think I've ever seen in my life. It's been 33 years since they've been to the Super Bowl. They have a quarterback that is changing literally everything about their franchise, not unlike the one that came in 1937 when the team moved and posted the best rookie season of any quarterback ever. Sammy Baugh, there is a ghost that is inside of Jayden Daniels wearing the Washington jersey, and now it's feeling like the stars are aligned. And I do believe we also need to invite LiAngelo Ball on the team plane.
The other part of this that I feel like the stars are aligning to is think about what this year off the field has been too. They're going to return to RFK, it looks like they're going to move back into the city.
Yeah.
This seems to be aligning with that, it seems like they're getting all the way back to what they should be in terms of going back to RFK, getting new owners, all of it. That's just another feather in the cap that this is their year.
It's wild.
This is their year.
It is wild. As for the game at this point, and this is what we don't know, and I can't wait to hear about, and don't assume to get much information. What is Jalen Hurts' status? Yep. I've seen all the internet doctors who looked at his injury on video and obviously have never spoken to him or touched his knee and have no access to any of his MRIs or whatever he's going to do this week, but they all gave their opinion and most came to a conclusion. He clearly didn't tear his ACL. He wouldn't have finished the game. He clearly did something to his knee because they won't do a tush push. And then they look at the way it kind of bent and just kind of how he was kind of moving initially. And they went, it's one of two specific ligaments, PCL or MCL. And then they came down to he can play with these, but we'll see if he has a brace on and what his lateral movement is. But this is it. The game hinges on this, in my opinion. I can already feel the air being sucked out of the building if they say Kenny Pickett is starting. And then I can already hear the excuses that will start to build if that's what ends up happening, of which I will remind them that the last time they went to the Super Bowl happened to be the time when San Francisco was down to a third quarterback, and they changed the rules because the San Francisco was not capable of putting an able-bodied quarterback on the field for them that day after injuries occurred. But whatever, as of now, he's going to play. The question is, can he run? And I think we're going to have to find that out in real time because I don't think they're going to announce that up front like, hey, Jalen Hurts is going to play, but wink, wink, he can't run the zone read. We're going to find out in real time. Can he move laterally at all? And if he can't, he's a sitting duck. So this is the whole game to me, is what the status of his knee is.
The other side of this is that means the Eagles defense is going to have to try to step up, and they're going to try to play one of these close games. All of a sudden, it's actually, this game becomes a little bit, I'm not trying to count this before it happens, but it becomes a test of what they could be meeting in the Super Bowl too. The Bills defense has stepped up in these playoffs. The Chiefs defense has been amazing all year, so much so that that's their identity this season. That actually becomes kind of like a little test heading in there. And if Hurts cannot move like that, well, we've seen what this defense can do now with Lattimore on one side and Mikey on the other side. All of a sudden, it becomes a way more potent one if you have him standing there like a sitting duck.
The motto that they've run with all year anyone, anytime, anywhere, right? I would add one more line to it this week, which is any type of game. This is going to be very different than the one that they played a couple days ago in Detroit. They have proven they can play low scoring games.
Yep.
They have proven with Philadelphia they can play topsy turvy. Oh God, we need to make up for whatever's happened that went bad games. They showed they can play in a track meet if they have to, because they were just in a game where the most points ever scored in a single quarter occurred. And so they won that quarter and they were able to win that game. This one's going to be very different. Hurts being able to go, not go, or be marginalized in going only adds more to my feeling of this is something in the teens. Like without Cosme this week, I have a hard time figuring out how do they handle the interior defensive line, and secondarily, how do they run the ball on them without it being Jayden putting on the cape and running around? Like, is there going to be, and I know they're going to stick to it because they're going to stick to it. They're going to try to run the ball. I knew they'd have more success than they had in recent weeks against Detroit because of all the injuries that they have. But this team's different. They've already had a hard time running the ball against them. They've already had a hard time with that interior defensive line. How are they going to be able to do it? The idea that Washington's going to be able to manufacture a lot of points here doesn't feel like the script to me. If Hurts is beat up and he can't move laterally, then I think Joe Witt and company just go, we're going to take our chances with Lattimore and Sanders still on A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith in the hopes that Hurts can't scramble and can't extend plays, so we're just going to pile up on the box and do the best we possibly can to limit Saquon Barkley, which all reads low scoring, who makes less mistakes type of game, and defensive battle, field position battle, like first one to 20 probably wins. That's what this feels like we're heading into this weekend.
No, it's 100% what I've thought too. If you look at the Eagles scores all year long too, I mean, they've got a couple blowouts, but you look at how they've I made the comment earlier, how they kind of play to their competition a little bit. Like the game I always go back to was that game against the Browns off of the bye, where like they only scored, I think, close to 20 points and the Browns scored like 14 points. They're playing that same brand of football that the Chiefs are. They're trying to play into their defense's hands a little bit here, not screw up. I mean, it's funny. That's what both of these teams seem to have been hanging their hat on. I would say the Eagles, though, have the best running back in the league. So we've seen some of those scores get crazy. But outside of that, they have also not been trying to play this kind of flashy type of offense. Not at all. And that's my joke with the Eagles is in the fourth quarter, Sirianni just realizes, all right, we've got Saquon. Just start handing him the ball a little bit more. And so that's a good game plan. And I'm not knocking that, but that's what it is.
They've lost once in 4 months. It's worked out for them. So, but that's what I think. That's where I think it's heading right now. One other thing real quick before we head to a break. Lamar Jackson in leaving yesterday, and again, Baltimore, I think, beat themselves again. It'd be a tough task to beat Buffalo no matter what up there. But still, in the end, it was their mistakes. Drop pass by Mark Andrews at the end of the game, the really bad 2 turnovers in the first half. Andrews had a fumble in the game. It's their own fault again. Like, I think those are the toughest ones to lose when you know you're the reason why you lost. And because it's not like a couple of years ago when the Chiefs and the Bills had that crazy back and forth crazy game. Somebody had to win and somebody had to lose. Nobody lost it. Like, just somebody had to win, somebody had to lose. The Ravens over the last couple of years seem to be their own worst enemy. Last year, it was they forgot they run the ball, like that's actually what they do. And this year was mistakes. I mean, it's the only reason. And he says today, it's inevitable that we're going to win the Super Bowl. And I don't know about that. Like, Pat Mahomes isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Josh Allen isn't going anywhere anytime soon. If they were to get this far, our guy isn't going anywhere anytime soon. And then we don't know what's coming next. Like, you never know what's like, what if Caleb Williams becomes a really great player? What if Drake May becomes a really great player? Denver, all of a sudden, with a really good coach and what seems to be a good quarterback, like all of a sudden, none of it's inevitable. None of it. And I'm sure I understand why he wants to say that to himself, but off of like them beating themselves, to hear him say it's inevitable, I think I would buy hearing something like that from him today if it was off of the Bills just beat them in a tight game. They didn't make any mistakes. It just happened to be two of the best teams played each other. Someone had to win and someone had to lose. That's not what's happened the last 2 years. Like, they could have at least advanced the AFC Championship, if not for their own mistakes. And they should have been in the Super Bowl last year, certainly, if not for their own ridiculous game plan and mistakes. So, like, for Lamar, if that's what you need to tell yourself, fine. But I think that's a weird word to use the day after a game where you guys blew it and not really the Bills beat you.
Not only that, you say that, and the quarterbacks you mentioned Allen, Mahomes, maybe Drake May becomes really good. You didn't even mention Burrow, who's in their division, who didn't get in the playoffs this year, who we've seen carried them to a Super Bowl once already and has been very, very good. And I never put the Ravens in those same category as those three guys, Allen, Mahomes, and Burrow, because remember, I told you this last year and even the previous year, those three franchises actually, they can't lose their minds losing to each other. They're all very, very good. But I haven't even put the Ravens in that category yet because they haven't been able to take care of business against those teams. I'll bring this back to a hockey conversation like we were talking with the Lions last week. You can tell me inevitable, but there was a day and age where Ted Leontis said, I can't wait for Ovechkin to win Stanley Cups, plural. Yep. And we got real late, all the way up to 2018. And that win was amazing. But you and I agreed when they won that Stanley Cup, it was more relief than it was like a jubilation of a celebration of them finally doing it. It was like, whoo, thank goodness this guy won one. You can't throw that word around and just assume you're going to do it in any sport, let alone this one, let alone in the AFC, where you are stacked at quarterbacks now, Hall of Fame quarterbacks.
Yeah, in his case, it's like he's an all-time great. I hope he's right.
Sure. No, totally. Absolutely. But
we'll see. That feels a little Ovechkin where you're like, here's a guy who's kind of redefined the position. It's kind of crazy. He'll never hoist the Lombardi trophy. Like the same thing I felt about Ovechkin all those years where I'm like, it's just, the world's not right if that guy's name's not on the cup at some point.
Right.
Like it's just, it's not right. All right. Let me take a quick break. Bram wants to show ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. All right. Welcome back. Snoop Benny Ben goes to Chicago. So the Bears interviewed 1,000 people and landed on the guy everybody said they were going to hire in December. So, all right. And like, this makes more sense, honestly, than him going to Vegas. That made no sense to me. Maybe they used it as leverage. I guess Absolutely. The agent and him just told the Bears, fork over the real money, and he got it. Good for him. He gets a prodigy quarterback, so that made a lot more sense than going to the Raiders too. So Ben and his agents did a really good job to get the most out of Chicago, scared him enough to get the money. I guess I don't know what this means for Lance Newmark now, because Ryan Poles picked him. Ryan Poles was empowered to pick him. If Ben Johnson maneuvers to get Poles out, it probably won't be this year. It'd be next year, which would just be another sign of dysfunction. Honestly, if you're going to let the GM hire the coach only to have a turncoat stab him in the back and have him leave the next year, that's not set up for success. So I am not that I don't want Lance Newmark to get all the opportunities in the world that he can, but this is semi good news to me that we may keep the gang back together, at least on that end, for another year.
This once again, I don't know how Chicago fans are reacting. I'm sure they're probably happy to have Ben Johnson. He's very innovative and all that. But I have to wonder if they're asking themselves the same question of when they had your boy Eberflus there last year, when they were like, why are we not clearing house and having a full reset with everything? I have to think there's a part of the fan base and the media there that are going, why are we doing this overlapping regime thing again? Clear house. But hey, whatever. You're the Bears. You guys do doing right. Exactly.
They have a really good roster with a prodigy quarterback. I want them to be stumbling over themselves the whole time because, if they get it together, they have a chance to open a window here. Obviously, they have a really good roster, and I believe what will end up being a really, really good quarterback. They should be formidable. If they can't figure out how to set up the structure to be rowing the boat the same way, though, that's better for us and everybody in the NFC.
Yep. No, and here's the thing, too. I think Ben Johnson took this job because there's a bunch of pieces on that offense that are all really good. The one thing with Johnson that I've been saying the whole time is it's easy to call up all of those plays in Detroit when you got first round picks all over the place on that offense, including the offensive line. So in Chicago, he's got that built in. He doesn't have the offensive line, but he has a very nice base to work around with that offense. If he can't figure out how to get that offense going, nobody can.
Yeah, that is the big difference. So the Lions offensive line's outstanding. The Bears one is not. So that's where the work needs to be put in to figure that out. Congratulations to Ryan Day, who gets to shut everybody up. After the Michigan game, everybody had him fired, including the entire state of Ohio. It wasn't just Stephen A. Smith or Pat McAfee or whoever who was yelling for it. The entire state of Ohio wanted to kick him out en masse, like chase him out of the street pitchfork style. And he turned around and he colored that beard and he went back into work and he got those guys to play really well. And Notre Dame, they're just, listen, I think that guy's a really good coach. That team's not nearly as talented as Ohio State. And, the final score showed that in the end of the day.
No, I mean, what was the joke? You lose to Michigan, you better win the national championship or you're going to get fired. And he did. You can't hate on that.
He did.
I mean, he did exactly what everyone said he had to do to keep his job. So good for him. I
want him to go on Feinbaum show or First Take and moon them. I just that's what I think he should do. I think he should do that. So congratulations, Ohio State, winning the national championship last night. Tonight we get Wizards apparently, and Caps versus Oilers. No McJesus. He got suspended. See, I'm not total football brain. I'm aware that happened. So the Caps are in Edmonton tonight, but their best player's not playing.
Yeah, no, exactly right. The Caps have been playing a very defensive game. This is going to help them out. It's going to be lowish scoring again, probably like a 3-2, 2-1 type game here. I don't know who's in net as of when we're recording now, but Logan Thompson won #1 star of the week last week in the NHL. I would be shocked if they don't ride him a little bit here on this road trip just to keep getting him those #1 reps. So Lindgren is officially off IR. Let's see who starts. That's the #1 storyline in tonight's game.
Okay, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow. Bram Show, ESPN 630, Sports Capital.